Welcome to another episode of Inside Boxing Weekly. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster, and as always, I want to welcome in my trusty co-host. I want to call him Tonto, Jeremiah Preisser. I did that one time on one of our NFL Legends show with Matt Andrews-Gavage, and he got all mad and everything. It was funny, but
nope, I'm thick skinned. Shit don't bother me. You can call me what you like, but hey, I'm ready to go. I'm happy we finally got a good week of boxing, and I'm real excited to get to this.
Yeah, we got like 6 fights to talk about. Then next week we got Liam Smith against Canelo Alvarez. So, I mean, now we've actually got something to talk about. We'll start off with a friend of the show. He's been on 3 or 4 times on The Grueling Truth, Kermit Cintron, who's going to fight for something called the WBF, whatever it is, Championship of the World against Manny Woods. I'm excited to see this fight. I think that Kermit Cintron was a guy that never really got to where he should have got with the tools he has, and I think he really has a chance to do something.
Yeah, I mean, he may finally realize the potential that we all thought he had. I mean, he's fighting, a journeyman in Manny Woods. Honestly, I don't know much about the guy, but, I mean, he's staying active. He's moving up his quality of opponents, bit by bit. I think he's going about it the right way. He's constantly training, and I'm happy for him. And with this fight, again, Manny Woods, he's not well known, but a close examination of his record, it's not too bad. I mean, most of it, a number of his losses actually are close. I mean, he lost, a majority decision to a guy, split decision to a guy, split decision to another guy. Funny enough, he actually beat Wilkie Camphert, the guy who lost to the Charlo brother for a title shot in his first fight. But it's just another step in Cintron's progression. Again, I'm excited to see it, and good luck to him.
Yeah, we're going to try to get him on the show after he knocks out Manny Woods the way I believe he will. I do think Woods is a step up from what he has fought, but I think Kermit will handle this one pretty easy. What do you think?
Oh, I absolutely agree. He'll just keep that jab out there, that long jab, bang him out with the right.
All right, that takes us to the next fight, which is Robert Easter Jr., who is 17-0 with 14 KOs against Richard Commey. Richard Commey. I sound like Donald Trump there for a second, calling somebody a commie. But Richard Commey is 24-0 with 22 KOs. But if you look at the records, I mean, this is the biggest test for either one of them by far, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be. What Commey really has is still yet to be determined. He looks like a good fighter. I wrote in a little article on him a while back. He looks good. I mean, he's from Ghana. They have a strong, rich tradition in boxing. Whether he'll become, a Joshua Clottey or Ike Corte type is still yet to be seen. But he's long. He's got solid power. His hand speed's pretty good. His technique has improved as he's gone on. But in Robert Easter Jr., I like what I see out of the kid. I had my doubts about him, but he looks Hearns-esque. And I don't want to get ahead of myself and say, he's the second coming and whatnot. I'm just saying that stylistically he bears some similarities. He's 5'11", which is huge for the lightweight division. He's only 25 years old. He's got a long reach of 76 inches, I believe. And in his last fight, which was meant to be a good test against Argenis Mendez, a quality operator himself, he scored a sensational stoppage over him, and I like what I see out of the kid.
It's good to see 2 up-and-coming contenders that aren't afraid to fight each other.
Right, yeah. I mean, I like it. I mean, it sucks that Bartholomew chose to vacate the title and move up because I would have liked to see him fight Easter, but he probably would have been too much anyways, at least with his experience and whatnot. But, yeah, I agree. It's great to see the young guys getting it on and telling us where they're at in their careers. And, if I'm going to pick a winner, I'm going to go with Easter. I just like what I've seen out of him. I think he's faced with stiffer competition. Whether or not he scores a knockout, I can't really say. Commey is a guy I haven't seen stunned. I've seen a number of his fights. I just don't know how good his chin is. But if I'm going to pick Easter by decision, and hopefully it's a good fight.
Yeah, I like Easter too. Then that brings us to Daniel Jacobs against Sergio Mora, which Jacobs has beaten Peter Quillen, Caleb Truax. He beat Sergio Mora once. Sergio Mora, let's face it, hasn't beaten anybody of any note for a long time. How does Sergio Mora even get this fight?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably not even
boring
worth
as
that.
hell to watch.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he was on the, Oscar de la Hoya's The Contender back in the day.
No, that was the Sylvester Stallone, the first edition, where he upset Peter did he fight Manfredo?
Yeah, I think he did. I think Manfredo moved down to 160.
That was the final, wasn't it? Mora beat Manfredo? Nah, I don't know. It was a long time ago. It was an entertaining show, though. But that was 10 years ago. And, I mean, since then, his record is 28-4. It's not like he's been real active. He doesn't have a whole lot of power. I guess they're just going off the name of that show, but I don't even think too many people really remember that show.
No, I think that's if it's in the back of people's minds at all, it's way back there. But I don't know.
Well, it's in mine because I really like that show. But
yeah, I know. I wish they would bring something back. I know
they ruined it after that.
Yeah, no, they need to do an equivalent to the UFC one. What is that? Ultimate Fighter or whatever it is?
That's kind of what the boxing one was, and NBC got pretty good ratings on it, and then they dropped it, and I think ESPN picked it up, but it was never as good after that. I think Danny Jacobs wins this fight however he wants to win this fight. I think it's just a stay busy fight for him anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a rematch for any of us to clamor about, but, I mean, I guess there was some, as odd as it sounds, there was some excitement in the first fight. I mean, Mora actually managed to drop Jacobs. But, we want to see Jacobs against the top guys. I mean, he should be fighting like Saunders or Golovkin. I'll watch, I'll tune in, but I don't expect much.
All right, then we got Jesus Soto Karass against Yoshiro Kamegai.
Yeah, his last name is...
I always get these names wrong. I hate when we get a bunch of foreign fighter fights. And it's not because I don't like foreigners, it's just because I don't like their names because I can't say them very well.
Yeah, that's Americans, but, that's kind of what state boxing is in. I mean, we've had such a massive influx of non-Americans in recent years, especially the guys from the former Soviet nations, that I guess we're just going to have to start picking it up. But, anyways, I'm really excited about this fight because I watched the first one, and I'm a little disappointed that there isn't as much hype going into this as there should be. I mean, in my opinion, it's an excellent fight. I mean, the first fight was great. I mean, for me, it's a contender for Fight of the Year. These guys
there's not too many Karass fights that are boring.
Oh, no, I don't think I could think of one. I mean, against Maidana, he had Maidana hurt a little bit. I mean, against Berto, he beat him up a little bit. Good fight to watch as well. Yeah, Karass is not a guy, Kamegai either. He's not a guy who makes boring fights. So that's exactly why I see this one being another barn burner. I mean, these are two guys who really only know how to go forward, and I expect an excellent fight again. If I'm going to pick a winner in this one as well, I think I'm going to go with Kamegai again. I thought he edged the first fight. He just looks a little more closer to his prime. Karass looks like he's taken a few too many knuckle sandwiches, and Kamegai just looks a little bit better. But it's going to be a great fight.
Yeah, I agree with you. It seems like Karass has a tendency to come up short in fights like this, which is why he's got 10 losses. But kind of like Glenn Johnson, he had a bunch of losses, but you never know when he was going to beat somebody you didn't expect him to beat. That brings us to Chocolatito, Roman Gonzalez, 45-0, 38 knockouts, against, once again, somebody whose name I'm going to butcher, Carlos-Cuadras.
Well, I think it's Cuadras, but I mean, either way.
Well, it should be, yeah, I think it is, too. From looking at the spelling, I don't know how I came up with what I said. But he's 35-0. Does he have a chance against Chocolatito?
I think he's got a chance. I mean, I think this may be Gonzalez's toughest fight in years. I mean, maybe going all the way back to the Estrada fight. Cuadras is a good fighter, and on top of that, Gonzalez is moving up in weight. Cuadras looks like a full-fledged 115-pounder. Not that I'm in love with the division, but it looks to be a good fight. Cuadras has good power. He's just a good fighter. I mean, his record indicates that. He's held his WBC title for quite a while now, and but more to the point, in my opinion, is what Gonzalez is doing. I mean, I really like this guy, and I'm surprised just with the Kamegai-Karass fight that there's not a little more hype to this. I mean, Gonzalez, he knew Alexis Arguello. You know, he was good friends with him, and he's trying to win a fourth division in a title in a fourth division. He's everything you want in a fighter, at least for me. I mean, he's aggressive. He throws combinations. He's got good power. He's humble. He's ambitious. I mean, he's a guy who wants to fight the best. We need more guys like this. And I'm excited to watch this fight.
Yeah, and the problem is, at 115 pounds, you're not going to get a lot of publicity.
No, especially among the Americans. I mean,
you look at it, even Michael Carbajal, who I think won an Olympic gold medal, even at that weight, fought some great fights with Roberto Gonzalez and them. I mean, you never really there was a little bit of buzz, but not much just because of the weight.
Yeah, and I mean, Americans have always had an issue embracing smaller fighters, and part of that is because they have a tendency to be foreigners as well. I mean, you know, most of the smaller guys are Asians or from Latin America, and this is no different. But I think they've done a good job marketing Gonzalez, especially putting him on the undercards of Golovkin fights. But I'm really excited about this guy. I mean, he's moving up again. I expect him to win again, but I expect it to be a tough fight. I mean, I expect this to be action-packed. There's been a lot of chatter between them. And, I mean, again, this is one everybody should be tuning in, and Gonzalez is a guy that just about everybody should be embracing.
Well, and that brings us to the main event, which is a fight, you know, I've been looking forward to. You got Gennady Golovkin against Kell Brook. I think Brook is going to be Golovkin's toughest opponent to date.
Yeah, and I think you may be right. I mentioned this before on a podcast when we were talking about, you know, when I mentioned, you know, how if Kell Brook had moved up and fought Eubank or Saunders or Andy Lee, I think he'd be a favorite. But, you know, you hear a lot of detractors saying, oh, he's a Golovkin, he's overmatched. Well, like I said also in another podcast, I think Kell Brook is a bit bigger than we all expected, or at least a lot of us expected. I mean, he's been bigger than Golovkin at every weigh-in that they've had. But Kell Brook, I saw him hit in the mitts today. He still looks fast. He looks like he's in good condition. I'm kind of getting excited about this, and I think you may be right. Brook may be the best opponent to date. I mean, he's certainly the most well-rounded. He's got speed. He's got pop. You know, he can move a bit. I'm just excited to see it, and I think most of us are going to tune in. And it's certainly a better fight than Con and Canelo was.
Yeah, and I think the thing that drives me nuts is people saying that Triple G's fighting somebody smaller. But you know what? Jose Napoli's moved up to fight Carlos Monzon. Leonard moved up to fight Hagler. I mean, it's what used to happen when there was only the 8 main divisions.
Yeah, I think one of the few things that I would agree with, though, like from some of the guys that I chat with who are big into the original 8 divisions, as I am too. The only issue that I really have with this is I wish Brook would have taken on Thurman for a new championship line. It would have been better to see him and Thurman get it on and establish a lineal championship, and then moved up to fight Golovkin, who would have been nice to see establish a new line with Canelo as well. I wish that would have happened first, but granted it didn't. Granted, the state of boxing that we're in right now, and things just don't seem to pan out very quickly. I mean,
but then if you do that, then after you beat Thurman or Thurman beats you, then everybody's going to say, well, why didn't you beat Earl Spence before you moved up?
Yeah, well, I mean that fight may not happen anyways. I mean, I'm hearing that Brook probably won't move back down to 147 after he's finished, but I guess we'll see. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but in terms of Golovkin-Brook, it's a good fight. Say what you want, it's a good fight. I'm going to tune in, of course.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a lot more interesting than Liam Smith and Canelo Alvarez.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Kell Brook had moved to 154, I think he's whooping Liam, honestly. I think if Kell Brook had moved up
I think he whoops Canelo at 154.
Yeah, I think if Kell Brook fights Canelo at 154, I think that's close to an even money fight.
Yeah, and I think Brook I think he's more polished. I know he hasn't fought the kind of competition Canelo has, but Canelo also, if you watch his style 4 years ago, it's the exact same as it is right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
if he would have waited 2 more years to fight Floyd Mayweather Jr., he still would have fought him the same way.
Oh yeah, he would have got. I mean, it would have been a schooling regardless.
Because he's not good against guys that can give him angles. He had trouble with Farazande Lara.
Well, yeah, he did. And actually, me being a hardcore boxing fan and whatnot, I mean, I followed Canelo for a while, not because I'm in love with the guy, but because, that's just what I do. And he actually struggled against a guy named Larry Mosley way back in the day, and a number of people thought that Mosley had actually won that fight, and that was a guy who was jabbing a lot, using lateral movement. But, yeah, Brook is a guy who can certainly, would certainly be able to give Canelo those sorts of issues. Whether or not he gives Golovkin those sorts of issues is another matter. I don't
So
see
what's your prediction for Golovkin and Brook?
I think Brook does well. I'm not saying he wins, but I think Golovkin does what he typically does in his recent fights. I think he fills Brook out, lets Brook, establish a sort of game plan in the early going, and then Golovkin starts to time him with the jab, bang him out a bit, and then I think he takes him out probably in the, I'm going to say 8th, 9th round. I think Brook does a bit better than the other guys, but I don't think he's as tough as Martin Murray. I think he's more skilled, but I don't think he's quite as tough. Yeah, and I see him going down about the 8th, 9th round. But
yeah, but the thing is, if you're more skilled, you tend not to take as much punishment as the guy that's tougher.
That is true. That is true. I'm just not convinced that Brook lasts until the 10th, 11th rounds, but we'll see. And kudos to Brook.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say kudos to Brook and Khan. I mean, a lot of people had a tendency to label UK fighters as a bit soft, but, Brook and Khan have kind of proven us otherwise.
Yeah, but even guys like Martin Murray, I don't think you could say that anymore. I mean, British boxing is probably better than what it has been for years. Just look at the amount of champions there are now. But, all right, guys, so we're going to wrap the show up, and make sure you check us out next weekend where we will be previewing Canelo Alvarez against Liam Smith. Make sure you check us out on iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher. Just about anywhere you find the podcast, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Jeremiah Preisser, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.